I never thought I'd be the one telling this story, but here I am. My name is Anna, and if there's one thing life taught me, it's that sometimes the people you'd give everything to protect are the same ones who'll watch you drown and call it your fault. Growing up, my family always swore there were no favorites. Mom would say it while braiding my hair for school, her eyes darting past me to Emily, my little sister, who'd be dancing barefoot on the kitchen tiles, spilling juice everywhere. Dad would repeat it over dinner, usually right after telling me I should learn to be more like Emily. And Emily? She didn't have to say anything. She just knew. Emily was the chaos wrapped in charm, skipping classes, getting caught stealing makeup, sneaking out at night to see boys twice her age. She'd come home with mascara running and excuses ready, and somehow, my parents always chose to believe her stories. Every single time. When teachers called, they blamed the teachers. When police brought her home once, they blamed her bad influence friends. Meanwhile, I was the good one. Quiet, obedient, the family's invisible backbone. Good grades weren't impressive, they were expected. Helping around the house wasn't praised, it was what you're supposed to do. And the older I got, the clearer it became Emily was the storm, and I was the umbrella they only noticed when it broke. After college, I poured myself into building something that was mine. No shortcuts, no handouts, just countless nights staring at glowing screens, sending cold emails, pitching to people who barely looked at me. And slowly, it worked. My digital marketing agency started pulling real numbers, $120K a month in contracts, a solid team, clients who respected me. And still, every dollar I made seemed to find its way back to them. I covered Dad's gambling debts, telling myself it was just this once. Paid for Emily's third stint in rehab, because family doesn't give up on each other. Mom needed surgery? I wired the money without thinking. Birthdays, Christmases, surprise vacations Emily needed for her mental health, I paid. And every time, they said thank you like it was owed to them. Then came that Sunday afternoon. Emily wanted to move out again, this time to find herself. Mom was making tea, Dad half listening from the couch, and Emily was scrolling on her phone like none of this mattered. And then Mom sighed. It was a heavy, tired sound, and when she spoke, she didn't look at me. Anna, honestly, you're becoming a burden to us. Maybe it's time you got your own place. You're old enough to live on your own. Dad nodded. Emily smirked. The words sliced through me cleaner than any knife. All those years of pretending, gone. The truth laid bare, I was useful, not loved. And now they didn't need me anymore. I left without a word. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my car. I don't even remember the drive to my office, just the noise in my head, you're a burden. A burden. A burden. That night, I sat alone in my empty office, lights off, staring at the city glowing outside. And I wondered why it hurt so much, when deep down, I'd always known. Then, like fate mocking me, I got a message from a guy I barely remembered meeting at a networking event weeks earlier. His name was Gabriel. He'd asked thoughtful questions, really listened, and I'd liked that. We'd exchanged numbers, but I never followed up. His message was simple, hope your week's going okay. Coffee? I typed no twice before deleting it. And then, for reasons I couldn't explain, I wrote back, sure. When? We met the next evening at a quiet cafe away from the glass towers and loud suits. He wore jeans, an old watch, and eyes that made me feel seen. We talked for hours, about work, about childhood, about things that made us stay up at night. When I told him about my family, my voice cracked, and I braced for the usual advice, they're still your family, maybe you misunderstood them, you should forgive. But Gabriel looked at me, really looked, and said quietly, Anna, sometimes blood just means shared DNA. You don't owe anyone your soul just because you share a last name. It felt like exhaling for the first time in years. And in that moment, without saying it out loud, part of me decided to let go. The days after that coffee felt like waking up in a different city. Gabriel didn't try to fix me, didn't shower me with pity, and didn't ask me to explain why I still felt guilty about people who'd thrown me away. He just stayed. We talked until dawn more than once. Sometimes at his place, a minimalist apartment with barely anything on the walls, warm wooden floors, and books stacked neatly by the window. Sometimes at mine, where half-packed boxes reminded me I'd have to move eventually. He told me about his own family, parents who died young, leaving him with nothing but debts and questions. He built his fortune from scratch, like me. But unlike me, he never felt the need to prove his worth to ghosts. And yes, he was rich. Richer than I'd even imagined at first. But the first time I realized just how wealthy, it shocked me. We'd walked past a luxury building downtown, and he casually mentioned he owned the top 3 floors. But his watch still had a scratched leather strap, and his idea of a perfect night was takeout and old records. One evening, sitting on his couch, I finally confessed the part one hadn't told him, that even after what they'd said, I was still sending money. That I checked my phone every morning half hoping to see a text that said we were wrong. That I couldn't stop thinking about them needing me. Gabriel listened without interrupting. And when I finished, voice shaking, he spoke so quietly it felt like truth sliding into the cracks of my chest. Anna, you don't have to keep bleeding to prove you loved them. It's okay to close the wound. It took me days to really hear him. But then, one cold morning, I did. I opened my banking app and canceled every scheduled transfer. Dad's credit card payment, Mom's car insurance, Emily's rent. My hands trembled the whole time. It felt like pushing my family off a cliff. A week later, the silence turned into chaos. At first, it was texts from Emily. Hey, rent's late, can you fix it? Then WTF, why is my card declined? Then the real venom, what is wrong with you? You know I can't do this alone. Mom called. Voicemails full of carefully chosen words, almost polite. Sweetie, we noticed some payments didn't go through. Maybe it's a mistake? Call me back. Then Dad, less gentle, don't make things harder than they have to be. Family sticks together. We need you to handle this. When I didn't reply, the messages multiplied. Emily's were the worst, half insults, half desperation. You're ruining everything. You always had to make it about you. I can't live like this. A few days later, I saw my own face on Facebook and Instagram. Mom had posted photos from years ago, writing, "Has anyone seen our daughter? We're very worried, please contact us." Friends tagged me. Old neighbors shared the post. Underneath, comments piled up, praying she's okay, family is everything, hope she comes back. They weren't worried before. But now that the money stopped, they were terrified. For a moment, guilt twisted in my chest so hard I couldn't breathe. I almost typed out an answer, I'm alive. Just tired. But Gabriel's words echoed louder than their fear. It's okay to let go. So I let the post spread. I let the messages pile up, unread. And each day, it got easier to breathe. Weeks turned into months. My company kept growing, my nights felt lighter. Gabriel and I started traveling on weekends, nowhere fancy, just quiet places where no one knew us. He taught me how to cook a terrible omelet and how to fix a dripping faucet. I taught him to dance barefoot in the living room. And one morning, almost a year later, I woke up next to him, his arm draped around me like a promise. The weight I'd carried so long felt lighter than air. I realized that I wasn't waiting for their apology anymore. I had finally left home, not just the building, but the place in my heart where they lived. And I wasn't going back. When Gabriel asked me to marry him, it wasn't in some glittering restaurant or with cameras hidden behind wine glasses. It was on a quiet Tuesday night, while we were folding laundry together in his apartment. He held out a ring, simple, elegant, nothing flashy, and said, almost shyly, I don't want to fix you. I just want to stand next to you for whatever comes next. Will you let me? For the first time in my life, I didn't hesitate. I said yes, and I meant it with every piece of me that was still healing. We decided to keep it quiet. No big wedding, no announcements. Just us, and a few people who actually loved us for who we were. But the universe has a dark sense of humor. Somehow, word got out. Maybe someone from my old circle saw the ring. Maybe Emily still stalked my socials from fake accounts. Because one morning, my phone lit up with messages from numbers I hadn't saved. And then a number I knew by heart. Mom. Anna, please call us. We need to talk. Then another, angrier, you're really going to do this? Marry someone we've never met? Think about what you're doing. And from Emily, unbelievable. After everything, you still only care about yourself. But hey, congrats on finding some loser to pay your bills. Funny, considering I'd been paying theirs for years. I didn't answer. For days, the silence between me and them grew like a canyon. And then, when that didn't work, they tried guilt from another angle. Mom posted an old baby photo of me online, captioned, "Our firstborn is making choices we don't understand. We miss her every day. Family is forever." It spread fast. Old school friends tagged me, distant relatives sent messages dripping with concern, "Your poor parents must be heartbroken. Call them." What no one understood was that I had called them every day of my life, in 1,000 silent ways, by wiring money, by swallowing pain, by letting their words carve scars on my heart without complaint. And every time, they chose not to hear me. One night, after dinner, Gabriel pulled me close on the couch. His voice was gentle, but there was steel under it. "Anna, you don't owe them your wedding day. You don't owe them your peace. And you definitely don't owe them an explanation." I knew he was right. But part of me still wondered what it would mean to cut them out completely. Could I really do that? The answer came not in a sudden epiphany, but in the steady drip of days without them. My mornings grew quieter, my chest lighter. I realized I'd been living my whole life waiting for them to clap for me, and maybe they never would. A month before the wedding, they tried one last time. Dad emailed me, the first time he'd ever written more than a sentence. It was full of carefully chosen words, like a man trying to sound loving without admitting guilt. "We only want what's best for you. Don't let this man take you away from us. We're your real family." Real family. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. That night, I deleted the email. Blocked their numbers. Blocked Emily. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but all I felt was relief, like unclenching a fist I'd been making since childhood. We married quietly, in a small garden overlooking the water. Just Gabriel, me, and a handful of people who saw me, really saw me. I wore a dress that felt like air. He wore the same old watch. And when he whispered "I love you" under his breath as I said my vows, I believed it in my bones. For the first time, love felt like freedom, not a debt to repay. The months after the wedding felt like living in a world I'd never known existed. There were mornings when I'd wake up beside Gabriel, sun leaking through the curtains, and realize my first thought wasn't "What do they need from me today?" but simply "What do I want to do today?" It felt unnatural at first, like wearing shoes that didn't belong to me. But each day, the quiet settled deeper into my bones until it felt like home. Gabriel and I built something gentle together. Sunday mornings spent at flea markets, where he'd bargain for old books we didn't need. Evenings cooking together, laughing at our disasters more than our successes. Walks at midnight when neither of us could sleep. The money was there, in the background, but never in the way. We didn't need expensive distractions to fill the space, we had each other. Meanwhile, the noise outside our life only grew. At first, Emily's posts turned venomous, photos of us stolen from mutual friends' feeds, captions dripping with sarcasm. "Some people forget where they came from." Or, "Must be nice to buy a new family." Then Mom's turned softer, almost saintly. We still pray for Anna every day. Family love never dies. Friends, distant cousins, even people I barely remembered from high school joined in, tagging me in comments. Your family misses you. Blood is thicker. Some days, guilt would whisper in my ear, curling around my ribcage like smoke. But Gabriel's presence was louder, steady, real, grounding. One night, a year after the wedding, I saw something that should have broken me. Emily had posted a long, public letter to my sister who forgot us. It painted her as the abandoned one, struggling alone, betrayed by the sister who only cared about money. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments, strangers calling me heartless. For a moment, I wanted to scream the truth into that void, how I'd paid her rent, her rehab, her mistakes. How I'd bled myself dry to keep them safe. But as I hovered over the comment button, my hands stopped shaking. Because the truth didn't need their permission to exist. And I didn't need them to know it. That realization was quieter than I expected. Not triumph, not rage, just peace. Gabriel came into the room, saw the post over my shoulder, and didn't say a word. He just took my hand, pulled me close, and whispered, "They can't touch who you are now." And he was right. My business kept growing, but I worked less. Hired smarter people, trusted them. Spent my saved hours painting badly on Sundays, burning dinners on purpose just to laugh, planning small weekend road trips. Gabriel taught me how to fish, though I never caught anything but weeds. I taught him to dance barefoot on cold kitchen tiles. Sometimes, late at night, I'd lie awake remembering Mom's voice calling my name, or Emily's laugh before it turned bitter. And instead of pain, I felt gratitude for the lesson, for the scars that taught me what love shouldn't look like. One morning, I stood in front of the mirror, looking at the woman staring back, older, stronger, softer somehow. Not the invisible backbone, not the family's ATM, not the quiet disappointment they never claimed. Just Anna. And for the first time, that was enough. A year turned into 2, and the noise from my past grew faint, like a distant radio station you can't quite tune in anymore. Life moved quietly, tenderly, in ways I never thought possible. Gabriel and I settled into our own rhythm. We hosted tiny dinners for the few people who felt like family, my business partner Mia, who once brought me soup when I had the flu, Gabriel's childhood friend who'd slept on his couch during college. A retired librarian from the building next door who'd taught us to care for the stubborn plants on our balcony. On our second anniversary, Gabriel surprised me with something small but fierce, a slim silver bracelet engraved inside with words only I could see, "You were never a burden." I cried when I read it. Not loud, broken sobs, just quiet tears that felt like water washing something old away. Around that same time, Emily tried once more. An email this time, not a post. No insults, no drama. Just, "I miss you. I'm better now. Can we talk?" For hours, I sat there, rereading it until the words blurred. Part of me ached to believe her, to answer, to run back into the fire just to see if this time it wouldn't burn. But healing had taught me something simple and brutal. Love isn't about who cries loudest. It's about who shows up, who stays, who doesn't make you choose between them and your sanity. So I wrote back only 2 words, "I'm glad." And then I let it go. Days folded into seasons. The guilt stopped visiting at midnight. My hands stopped hovering over blocked numbers. I realized I could remember their birthdays without feeling like I owed them a call. Gabriel and I traveled more, quiet lakes, sleepy towns where no one cared who we were. We lived slowly, fully. Money became a tool, never a chain. One autumn morning, standing in the kitchen still half asleep, I whispered, almost to myself, "Do you think they'll ever understand why I left?" Gabriel poured coffee, handed me a mug, and kissed my forehead. "Maybe. Maybe not. But you don't need them to." And he was right. We built a home that didn't look like theirs, not bigger, not richer, just kinder. A place where mistakes were met with laughter, not cold silence. Where love felt soft, not sharp-edged and conditional. Sometimes, when the sun slid across our living room, catching the silver bracelet on my wrist, I'd think of the girl I used to be, sitting in her childhood bedroom, begging God to make her enough. I wanted to tell her, "You are. You always were." And one morning, just as leaves began to turn, I stood on our porch watching Gabriel read the paper, his hair still messy from sleep. The air smelled of coffee and autumn and something I couldn't name except to call it peace. For the first time, I realized I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. Fully, gently, fiercely. And that girl in the mirror, the one my family had once called a burden, she was finally free.
Make sure to like and subscribe. Let's reach the target of 1 subscription.